Hello everyone, before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now let's begin. Story 1. The Blue Water hitchhiker Nate Diesel Carter had already chewed through 2 cans of Monster and 800 empty New Mexico miles when he swung his Peterbilt into the Blue Water Lake rest area, just past midnight moonlight bleaching the sandstone mesas white as bones. The wind smelled of creosote and distant rain, and the sodium lamps hummed like old fluorescent coffins, enough ambience Nate thought to make even a skeptic believe in spooks. He was hauling lettuce from Barstow to Albuquerque, running behind because dispatch insisted on a detour around Flagstaff wildfires. All he wanted was a bathroom break and 5 minutes to splash water on his face. The tiled men's room looked new, but the mirror was spider-webbed with age, and a temporarily closed for renovation sign lay face down under the sinks like someone had kicked it aside. As Nate zipped up, the lone overhead bulb stuttered, dropping the room into Morse code darkness. On the third flicker, he heard a wet shuffle from the last stall, feet dragging, not stepping, and a man's cracked whisper. "Got a ride east, driver." Nate froze, heart thumping so hard he felt it in his gums. Rising tension coiled with each blink of failing light. The air grew freezer-cold breath, turning to fog. A battered road atlas slid out from under the stall door, pages crusted with something brown that smelled like copper. Nate's gaze snagged on a handwritten note circling a single spot on I-40 mile 72. Don't stop after 1974. Blue Water's marker was 72. Legend time truckers swap stories about a draft dodger who hitchhiked that exit during the Nixon years, stabbed in the rest stop bathroom, body never found. They say he still thumbs rides east, furious at anyone who ignores him. The light died completely, total oil black, then flared once more to reveal the stall door slowly opening. Inside, no toilet, no wall, just desert night stretching impossible miles, and a silhouette with an outstretched thumb, eyes reflecting headlights that weren't there. Nate bolted, sprinting to his rig, hearing the hitchhiker's boots scuff behind every panicked footfall, though no one appeared in the mirror of his cab. Outcome, he roared onto the interstate tachometer, redlining, convinced he'd escaped, until his dashboard GPS recalculated and chirped, "Continue on I-40 east for 6666 miles." The unit had been unplugged. Twist highway patrol footage pulled next day shows Nate's 18-wheeler barreling past mile marker 72 at 2:07 a.m. But Blue Water Lake rest area had been fenced off for asbestos removal since April, its power cut, restroom lights disconnected. Story 2. The Crimson Penny at Sweetgrass Summit. Blake Rabbit Morales, UNLV sophomore with a spring break buzz and a dented silver Civic, pulled into the Sweetgrass Summit scenic overlook on I-15 just as the northern sky bled pink behind Glacier National Park. The sign promised restrooms and views, but all Blake felt was the urgent slosh of 3 truck stop coffees. He'd chosen this particular turnout because Reddit swore the Sunset Loop was the safest night drive to Calgary. Mom's voice memo begged him to stop only at lit areas. The overlook's bathroom glowed with motion sensor LEDs, walls paneled in cedar that still smelled fresh, yet an antique payphone hung beside the sinks, a curiosity in our Cash App century. As Blake approached the lone urinal, the lights flickered once, twice, and on the third blink, a copper scent cut through the pine, sharp as a nosebleed. He glanced down. A single 1943 steel wheat penny lay at his feet, slicked red as if dipped in paint. Hooked, he pocketed it. Inciting incident, the payphone rang, though its coiled cord dangled severed. Blake, adrenaline stupid, lifted the silent receiver. On the other end, radio static parted for a girl's whisper. "He makes you pay the toll." The line went dead. Lights snuffed and the stall doors creaked open in domino sequence, though no wind stirred. Rising tension bulged as something metallic clinked across the floor, pennies rolling from every stall, ringing like hammers on an anvil, forming an arrow that pointed to the exit. Legend time Sweetgrass locals tell of Tolman, a Depression-era drifter who robbed drivers for a penny, one soul for 1 cent, murdering a family at this very overlook in 1937 before vanishing into the blizzard. Travelers still leave pennies for safe passage. Blake sprinted outside, chased by the slithering sound of coins. The motion lights had failed moonlight, revealing his Civic's windows fogged from inside. Climax, a shape tall, brim-hatted eyes glowing hot coal red, sat in the passenger seat, twirling that steel penny between bone-thin fingers. Blake dropped his keys, engine auto-locking with a chirp that shouldn't echo in open air. Outcome, he fled to the highway shoulder, flagged down a semi and begged for a ride south. The trucker refused but promised to call highway patrol. Twist stinger. 2 hours later, troopers found Blake's Civic empty yet idling, heater on full blast. Every surface from dashboard to rear glass was lacquered in wheat pennies except one bare spot on the passenger seat, the steel cent balanced upright as if waiting for its fare. Story 3. The shadow under Echo Ridge Overlook. They say Colorado's I-70 is the prettiest stretch of interstate in America, but at 2:43 a.m., its postcard canyons turn jet black, perfect for hiding mistakes. I was riding shotgun for my cousin Len Gearbox Jensen, hauling craft beer kegs from Denver to Moab. We stopped at Echo Ridge Overlook because the turbo was running hot and Len's bladder was louder than the Jake brake. The Overlook squats on a cliff cut straight from John Ford Cinema, a concrete pad, 2 picnic tables chained to rebar, and a restroom bunker sunk into the rock like a forgotten Cold War pillbox. Hook, as we killed the headlights, the engine fell silent, yet something kept breathing, a slow, gravelly draw that wasn't ours. The men's room door hung crooked, half-sheared from its hinges. We pushed inside, phones lighting walls where tourists had sharpied names beside the etched words, "Listen close." Setting and atmosphere reeked of diesel, sagebrush, and the metallic sting of ozone blowing up from the canyon. Main character and motive: Len's a mechanic first, trucker second, and he hates unsolved noises. He whipped out a flashlight to find the source of that phantom breath. Inciting incident: the beam landed on a vent grate above the sinks where dust motes spiraled like tiny planets, and a fresh handprint smeared in red clay slid down the metal as if pressed from the other side. Rising tension, every drip from a distant faucet echoed tenfold, bouncing around the tile until it whispered our own speech back at us in delay, back at us. The legend Echo Ridge was a CCC blasting site in 1934. 6 workers died when a dynamite charge misfired, sealing them alive in a ventilation shaft. Local hikers report voices repeating their words backward, begging for air. Climax: Len's stubborn fool pried the rusty grate. A rush of frigid air whooshed out, carrying the minor stench of sweat and cordite. A silhouette crawled upside down along the ceiling, its joints bending wrong. mouthing our last sentence in reverse syllables popping like wet gravel. Outcome, we bolted, but the echo followed outside, repeating our panicked footsteps a beat behind, though nothing touched the gravel. We peeled away and the Freightliner tack screamed, drowning the canyon until a final thud landed on the trailer roof. Something hitching a ride. Twist stinger after sunrise, we checked the rig in Moab. No dent, no debris, just the cargo seal snapped open and every keg's stainless lid fogged by a single smeared handprint red clay spelling "Listen Closer" across 50 barrels meant for thirsty tourists. Story 4. The Forever On light at Dead Man's Crossing Service Area, Kansas can lull you into thinking nothing bad ever happens under so much sky, but mile marker 203 on the turnpike wears a different halo after dark. Jackie Sunflower Green, an Omaha photojournalist chasing a dawn interview in Wichita, pulled onto Dead Man's Crossing at 1:11 a.m. Her CRV pinging low-fuel prairie wind drumming tumbleweed against the concrete picnic shelter. Hook, the women's restroom, blazed like a stage, every fluorescent tube humming at full tilt despite the vacancy sensor above the door hanging by frayed wires. Atmosphere felt wrong, bright like surgical lights on an empty operating table. Jackie's motive was mundane caffeine exit, followed by a quick mirror check before the TV spot. Makeup bag in hand, she stepped inside. Inciting incident before the door swung shut, the bulbs surged hotter, bleaching the walls until grout lines vanished and the hinges locked with a clack that echoed much too long. Rising tension crept as the mirror refused to show her face. Instead, it reflected a dim corridor retreating into black, lined with old-style incandescent bulbs that fizzed and burst one by one, snuffing the path behind an unseen figure trudging toward her. Legend whispered by turnpike toll clerks, a lineman named Earl Hodges was electrocuted here in '57 while replacing ballast. They buried him in Maple Hill, but truckers claim Earl can't clock out. Every midnight he checks the lights, trapping anyone who notices the power never cuts. Jackie, throat dry, tried the switch. The beam only flared whiter scent of melting plastic filling her lungs. Climax erupted when the stall doors all slammed open, revealing emptiness except for smoldering shoes on tile like someone stepped out of them mid-stride. From the ceiling panel, a gloved hand dangled, rubber-coated fingers snapping to test voltage, followed by a voice crackling like a PA system. Bulbs burnt, miss. Need a body to ground it. Outcome. Jackie hurled her steel makeup compact at the mirror. Glass spidered and the corridor image shattered, with it plunging the room into instant black. The missing face returned her own, now lit only by a single buzzing tube that strangled itself to darkness in a final pop. She shoulder-rammed the door. It flew open easily, as if never locked prairie night swallowing the glare. Twist stinger back in the CRV, she gunned south, heartbeat sinking with passing reflector posts, sure she'd escaped until her dash cam pinged motion detected. Playback at sunrise showed the car idling, driver's seat empty, cabin blazing with harsh white light, though her interior bulb was factory disabled. Her compact lay on the passenger floor, fused into a puddle of melted chrome, spelling two letters in bubbled plastic, EH initials on Earl Hodges' brass nameplate, still hanging above the maintenance panel inside a restroom Jackie swears was pitch black. Story 5. The Pine Tar Knock at Shiver Creek Welcome Center, southbound I-95. Travelers know Mile 169 by its neon billboard of a smiling fox, but under the towering longleaf pines that smother cell signal, the Shiver Creek Welcome Center grows its own rumors after midnight. I pulled in driving relief for Meg Whistle Barkley, a Greyhound steward dead tired from wrangling spring breakers because my CDL let me share the wheel on the graveyard leg to Savannah. Opening hook before the engines cooled, we heard 3 dull knocks from the women's room door, though no one was inside, just wind that smelled of sap and salty marsh. Setting and atmosphere, the Welcome Center's lights sat amber dim to protect sea turtle hatchlings on distant beaches, so shadows pooled thick between vending machines and the forest's edge where cicadas sawed an off-season dirge. Main character and motive. Meg needed the restroom motion sickness from too many roadside burritos, and I, ex-Army medic, followed out of reflex to keep an eye on her. Inciting incident as she stepped under the doorway sensor, the knocks returned. 3 hollow raps from within, followed by silence that seemed to swallow the parking lot hum. Rising tension, the restroom's fluorescent tubes glowed sickly green. Pine needles littered the tiles as if the forest had tracked itself inside. Every mirror was fogged, yet the air stayed cold dry, and fresh boot prints men's size led from the entrance to the last stall where the door hung a half-inch ajar. Revealing clues and legends, local truckers tell of Tapper Tom, a Vietnam vet who hanged himself here in '86 after a PTSD episode. They say you'll hear 3 knocks, the final beats of his failing heart, before he asks for a cigarette he never received on his last patrol. Climax, Meg, trembling yet stubborn, kicked the stall fully open. A single cigarette rested on the seat filter, chewed ember still glowing, though no smoke rose. Above it, the ceiling vent exhaled a voice hoarse with "Camels got a light, Doc." The words froze my breath. Only combat buddies ever called me Doc. Out come the ember brightened, sparking pine tar sparks that skittered across the floor and smoldered in the scattered needles, spelling THREE before dying. My trauma shears clattered from my belt into the pattern. The room plunged, dark emergency exit sign flickering like mortar flashes. We bolted for the coach tires, spitting gravel as we fled south. Twist Stinger at dawn, we stopped for fuel in Hardyville. When I opened the luggage bay, a single fresh Pine Barrens cigarette pack lay atop the suitcases no passengers smoked, taped with a motel matchbook from 1969 Saigon. Inside, 3 matches were missing, the head scorched to ash. Story 6. The whiteout passenger at Granite Pass Refuge, US 14A, slices across Wyoming's Bighorn Range like a cracked spine, and when January blizzards slam the switchbacks, the only safe harbor is the Granite Pass Refuge, a stone block restroom shack perched at 9,000 feet 50 yards from a sheer drop. Opening hook, our reefer rig crawled into the pull-off at 3:06 a.m. Snowflakes knifing sideways so hard the hazard strobes looked submerged. Setting and atmosphere headlights died against walls of spindrift. Wind howled through lodgepole pines like freight cars taking a curve too fast. Main character and motive, I'm Trevor Chains, Delaney ex-ski patroller turned produce hauler. My partner Gwen Throttle Sorensen needed a pit stop before the last descent to Cody, and I craved 5 minutes to scrape rime from the air filters. Inciting incident, the refuge door stood ajar despite wind pressure. Inside, the single heat lamp burned dim orange, but a cloud of chilled breath hovered midair with no body beneath. Rising tension frost veined the mirrors, yet one rectangle at head height stayed crystal clear, reflecting a young woman in a 1970s denim jacket standing behind us, though the room remained empty. She mouthed one word we couldn't hear. Our earbuds dangled silent. Revealing clues and legends, highway logbooks mention a charter bus that vanished in a whiteout of 77. Only the driver staggered into Cody hands black with frostbite, babbling that a passenger in seat 17 insisted they stop for the restroom and never came back. Locals still tape seat 17 do not board signs on winter coaches. Climax, Gwen tried the stall. Snow poured from the toilet bowl like dry ice, filling the floor ankle-deep, sculpting a seated figure whose eyes glowed dashboard blue. The heat lamp fizzled. The stall door slammed, pinning Gwen's jacket. The denim girl's reflection hissed audibly now. "Take me down." Every bulb shattered, plunging us into violet dark, lit only by flakes swirling from the open bowl, an impossible indoor blizzard. Outcome, I yanked Gwen free. We sprinted to the Kenworth, but the cab lights flickered, radio spitting an old Eagles track the antenna couldn't possibly catch in this storm. The passenger seatbelt lay buckled, tensioned around nothing, and the dashboard nav rerouted. South voice command set to seat 17, mode arrival 17 minutes. Twist, stinger, we white-knuckled the descent brakes, screaming. Near the valley floor, the storm lifted in one heartbeat, moonlight revealing a lone denim jacket draped over the seatbelt, neatly folded atop it. The odometer showed 17.0 new miles, even though Granite Pass is 22 from where we rolled to a stop. When maintenance crews reopened the refuge in spring, they found our tire tracks, but no human footprints, and a single Polaroid taped to the mirror, a smiling tour group on a 1977 bus, the girl in denim holding a sign that read, 17 Forever. Story 7. The silent choir at Mesquite Flats pullout. Even coyotes avoid Arizona's US 93 at high noon, but at 2:59 a.m., the desert itself feels hollow, a stage waiting for a single sound that never comes. Cal half-tank Ramirez, rideshare driver hustling a Phoenix Vegas run, swung into the Mesquite Flats rest pullout when my passenger, a librarian named Dana, asked for a bathroom break before the long nothing to Kingman. The lot sprawled under saguaros, silhouetted by a sliver moon. Roadside LED fixtures should have buzzed, yet the entire area lay in perfect oppressive hush, as if someone had pressed mute on the Mojave. Motive, Donna's motion sickness demanded a pit stop. My gas gauge flirted with E, so waiting outside felt wiser than risking a vomit cleanup fee. Inciting incident, the women's room door squealed open but made no actual noise, only the motion of sound. Dana mouthed weird and stepped inside. Seconds later, every fixture erupted in cold fluorescence. Yet from where I stood, there was still zero auditory feedback. No hum, no wind. No distant semis, just a vacuum so thick my own heartbeat seemed to echo off the sand. Rising tension coiled when I realized the radio in my Camry displayed a signal 93.3 FM, but the speakers produced absolute silence. The equalizer bars danced anyway, pulsing to music I couldn't hear. Legend trucker forums mention quiet hour, a 5-mile dead zone where sound died during nuclear tests at Yucca Flat in '52. Witnesses claimed the desert stole their voices, leaving echoes trapped to replay later like caged birds. Climax, Dana staggered out, eyes wide, signing frantic gestures. The restroom mirrors reflected her screaming. though her throat emitted nothing. Behind her, 11 shadowy figures in travel clothes opened their mouths in perfect choir formation. Faces stretched in silent aria. Outcome, I grabbed her wrist, sprinted for the car. Tires spun gravel with no roar, engine tack redlined without growl. Yet we accelerated anyway, speed registered 40, 60, 90, pure motion divorced from sound. Twist, stinger, 15 miles north, the stereo finally crackled alive, playing an a cappella chorus of human screams layered like a cathedral organ, our own voices mingled with strangers. I killed the ignition, but the choir continued for exactly 3 minutes before cutting to static. Later, forensic audio techs confirmed the recording contained 11 additional vocal profiles beyond 2 registered occupants' frequencies, matching no known users, but spiking precisely at 2:59 a.m., the minute we entered the pullout, forever remembered by the desert that never forgets a sound once it decides to sing it back.